Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2, with the player ranked #1 in the world by Dark. In the blue, the final boss. It's Dark. Up against his longest time rival. We have in the red Micro Jackson. It's ByuN. A best-of-3 Terran versus Zerg showdown between the barely controlled chaos of Dark and the steadfast traditional Terran of ByuN. It's a matchup between two world champions. In fact, they faced off in the World Championship 8 years ago. Oh my god. Oh, let's not dwell on the past, but instead to the future, where I beg you for likes, and maybe even subscribes. And Jimmy, what are we at? 1,460 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one. Or else. And thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far, and hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. ByuN doesn't even bother walling off. Did he SCV scout? No, he didn't scout. He didn't wall. The hubris! Of course, he knows Dark probably better than his wife does, considering how much they've played with each other, if you would. Against each other. Around each other. But the Reaper gets in, and I think it's pretty clear at this point it was a 3-hatch, well, an early 3-hatch, not 3-hatch before pull. But about as quick as you can get it, because he doesn't even have any gas. He's getting his first extractor now. So ByuN, just a little bit of gambling, and not walling off. He will take the gold base as well. So both players on the greedy side of things. And side note, this is not on the new balance patch, which is probably going to be added to the live server soon. But I wanted to make sure to get some of the highlight games from the old balance patch out here, because there's a non-zero chance that when we update to the new patch, all these replays will be broken. Usually it doesn't happen, but occasionally it has, because the intern checked the wrong box and then never fixed it. So I'm a little afraid that will happen with the new patch. So, just... And of course, we don't have too many games, especially from Dark on the new one, which feels like criminal negligence at this stage. I really want to know how Dark feels about it, but he's been a little quiet lately, and I'm hoping that he doesn't have his obligatory military service coming up, even though kind of been expecting him to announce that for like 3 months now. So we will see. Just like these SCVs will see the angry face of a single roach. Call me Randy the Roach. I know the Terrans have a certain stereotype with that name, and I would like to embody said stereotype. Bit of a creep, even off a creep, if you would. Get Randy! Get back here! No, Brenda! I'm not coming back to the creep. I'm fighting the Oh, Marines! Well, this is an odd fight. It goes into a Ravager cocoon in order to try to dodge. Ravagers are technically faster, as long as the Marines don't have stim. Unfortunately, stim is done. And the Marines turn, they hit the needles, and they gun down one Ravager. The other one, nope, not even close. And oh wow, lo and behold, ByuN doing a completely original, never before seen since the last series we cast to ByuN. 16 Marines and 2 medevacs build. One of those, a build that was almost ByuNstoppable when it first came out, when he first developed it, in early Legacy of the Void. Well, that goes for many of ByuN's builds. I'm talking 3 racks Reaper, the double medevac plays, some like 17 different variations on Hellion Banshee. But nowadays, for the most part, Zerg players especially have gotten quite adept at dealing with it directly. So Terrans usually rely more on the tech-oriented plays, but with the gold base to help punch out those Marines even quicker. And oh god, they're just so mobile. Looking to cut down some of the roaches. That is clearly not enough, or at least not enough to intimidate ByuN. Down comes a queen. Will be transfuse. One of the queens gunned down immediately, and now the danger of expanding to this location is pretty well exposed as ByuN picks up and just drops the base. Yet again, the queens have to scramble back up, unable to fly since the war. Another queen gets taken out, but one of the medevacs is gunned down in turn. The knitting needles pin cushioning it enough in order to take it down with most of the Marines inside. But still, one medevac of Marines is infinitely harder to deal with than none. And while these Marines are still chilling on the high ground, Dark can't really think much about counterattacking. And behind this, ByuN has just he still hasn't walled off the hubris. Terran's an entitlement. Name a more iconic combo. Doesn't even bother walling the high ground. And speaking of high ground, the Marines actually able to take out the drones as well as maybe an extractor. The Queens! Susan, move! The medevac, wow, going to trade the Queens for the medevac. ByuN just lets it go, but he manages to gun down 3 Queens, clear up the creep in the main base, and the Marines are still going. Kill 3-4 drones. They won't stop! Finally, the roaches will make them stop after slaughtering a bit of everything. And behind it, ByuN wasn't slowing down. He's now dead even on work. He's ahead, 59 to 57 workers. He's got 1-1 about 30 seconds quicker. He's got multiple siege tanks set up on the high ground. And while Dark has managed to expand over to the 3 o'clock position with his 4th base, he doesn't really have the drone count to take advantage of it. And ByuN has had nothing but that single roach. Randy! The single roach to slow him down. So ByuN's momentum continues to grow against a Dark who is clearly trying to tech up enough to potentially stall it out. Hive begins, as well as Hydralisk Rage, but still a ways out, not nearly close enough to save the northern base attempted at the gold, immediately taken down, dead on arrival with those Marines. 1-1 now done for ByuN. Gonna sidestep some corrosive bile. Dark gonna try to retake this base. Medevacs drop out in the purgatory area here in between the bases. A scan. Doesn't really spot much. Whips out the corrosive biles. It actually hits and kills one of the medevacs. A small but noticeable victory there for Dark. Reducing the strength of the medevacs at the back increases the likelihood he won't just die to this tank push. Now, there is still a significant chance he does, though, considering his unit composition is a bunch of roaches and ravagers with equal upgrades to a Terran with Marines, Marauders, and siege tanks. 2 ravagers down, easily sidesteps corrosive bile. Those siege tanks in range to protect the attack of the northern base, and it will be taken down yet again. ByuN with no reason to stop here will set up those tanks on the high ground, and Dark has some very hard choices to make. Will he try to defend this base at all, or does he just give it up in favor of a better engagement angle elsewhere? Not that there are too many great options, but here we go. Dark gonna go for it. The roaches and ravagers, he didn't really have high ground vision. The ravagers getting obliterated. There's 4 tanks on the high ground still. And while the Marines and Marauders have been thinned out, Dark plummets in supply, now down 10. And he's making roaches and hydras. Not known for being incredibly supply efficient. Another drop in the main. The Marines transfuses, holds it together, kills a few of the drones. Vipers are on the way. The hatchery will eventually fall as the Marauders are poking at it. But Dark has kind of stalled it out, but Dark is back on 3 bases against a 4-base Terran. He's a little behind on the upgrades. He's working on Viper. Oh my god, ow. Ugh. The Hydras paying a heavy price to take out these siege tanks, but they will do so. Eventually, Dark clears out the tanks and will survive for now. Is it enough? Well, if anyone can turn it around from here, it's a tall order. Baneling Nest, that is a misclicked spore crawler, if my experience tells me anything. That has happened to me not a small amount of times. The +2 upgrades completing for both sides. ByuN now throwing ghosts into the composition. Your 2 supply ghosts. Still here. 3 hatcheries on the way for Dark. A great spread of hydras. He's expanding aggressively, so hopefully at least one of these hatcheries is able to complete. Another dozen Hydras. Against a Marauder tank composition, Hydras are actually pretty good. You get a few blinding clouds. None of those units do great damage against the Hydras. So a good concave on creep could very well make the difference. I'm sure ByuN is incredibly aware of that, though, as well. It's getting to the point where he doesn't even really need to attack. He has such a good economy. He can just kind of choke Dark out. But ByuN is not really an idle player. He will go forward if he has an opportunity, or if he even thinks he has one. So the blinding clouds on the main army as well as the back line. Some snipes coming through, but blinding clouds on the majority of the siege tanks will allow Dark to close in yet again. 2-3 tanks taken down easily, some ghosts dying, but the choke point, he takes out the last tank. A bloodbath on both sides. But it seems like the Zerg will pay a heavier price. 2 siege tanks still remain on the back line. And again, no matter how many times Dark drives him back, ByuN is still growing economically. There's just gonna be more Terran. The Red Army will continue to march across the map. Because no matter how many men ByuN loses, he has the economy to easily replace them. Dark is getting gunned down one by one. Some of the drones offering a diplomatic set of gold and minerals to try to deal with this. He might be able to take out a couple more of the tanks. The ghosts used most of their energy on snipes, so don't have too much left for the lurkers. But not so bad themselves in fighting the Hydras and the Lings. The gold base is attempted. Dark was mining from it somewhat, but not for much longer. 10 more drones dead. The ghosts line up some shots, take down a couple more Hydras. I don't think there's much more to it. ByuN crushes through in game 1. Dark not able to punish the intense greed. And ByuN reverted back to his original form with the double medevac marine drops. That was ByuN's second build. After he got the Reaper nerf twice, that was his build. He did not get the marine nerfed with it because eventually Zergs adapted, is how it worked out for the most part. But when you have the gold minerals or you have a map that's particularly suited to it, 2 medevacs full of marines are never going to be a bad idea. It's just a question of whether there are better ideas for dealing with someone, especially like Dark. But really using the terrain, putting the eye in terrain like Terrans like to do, very possessive. And now we're on Alcyone. Enjoy these maps. Well, I'm not sure which of the current map. If you had to pick, there's going to be 4 maps from this current map pool that are in the next one. I kind of want a full rollover. But if you had to pick one map from the current map pool, the favorite that you think had the best games or the most fun games, was it Amphion with its completely different styles? Oceanborn with its remarkably generic yet even-handed back and forth? Site Delta for somehow having some of the most ridiculous late games despite its kind of open floor plan? Alcyone for making casters upset very pedantic nerds as well as also being a very late game map? They're also a Golden Aura. I think that stick out in your mind. And then prepare to be disappointed with the new season, because once you say it, almost certainly it won't make it through. I think there is a post somewhere, but I didn't want to complain about maps anymore until we get the official new one, so. TBD. Queen. Goes for the inject first. Not gonna bother. Another quick 3 hatch before gas. But of course, ByuN not to be outdone as a 3rd command center. So both players again going heavy into the early macro. I do wonder how much of this is them just playing each other so much that it's almost impossible to cheese, and how much is they play each other so much they kind of just treat it like another ladder game. 50-50. Pretty sure Dark played more pro games in the last year than 99% of the people watching this played ladder. In 2023, he played somewhere around 3,500 professional games. Not ladder games. Professional games. In tournaments that had prize pools. I think it's more like 2,500 this year. There hasn't been as many tournaments. And he's been a little bit less active, but not by much. So, you know what? I'd be hard-pressed. I'd be surprised if more than 1% of people watching this had played more than 3,500 ladder. You know? Okay, that's not fair. It's like 3%. Especially in the last 5 years, so. Have I? Maybe not in the last year, to be honest. Obviously over 5 years, but... Time. What does it even mean? And no, we're not talking about Oliveira. Unrelated. Banshees. No cloak. Just straight up Banshee. Safety Banshees. Probably anticipating maybe a roach timing out of Dark, as he's been known to do. But this time around, wow, Dark is actually playing like he's up against the same build, or a similar one. He's getting that Baneling Nest lined up with the lair. So it isn't roaches, but instead a heavy Ling Bane play. And already got a fourth on the way. No engineering bays out of ByuN. Double Evo chamber. Dark will have the upgrade advantage, assuming he starts those upgrades in time. ByuN has already landed his third command center on location. And is pumping out those SCVs as well. +1 melee. Baneling speed. Double Banshee on the way out. He missed the drone. Wait, where is the drone? Where are you going? Is he gonna... He's gonna mine through Dark side of things. I mean, ByuN side of things. Meanwhile, on the Dark side, the Banshees will be repelled. I think it's pretty obvious there's no cloak in a moment. The fact that this drone made it through could be a deciding factor in the game. The drone did not show up at any point in vision, but it will, sir? Papers, please. No! But where did he get the minerals from? Is actually a very important question. Will be on notice. I don't think he really thought about it. He's putting a depot over here. But will he realize? Not that there's just having that open at all, if you're not paying attention to it, the siege tanks are jammed in. There's a hive on the way. A redonkulously fast hive. Free 7 minutes. ByuN has not done much more than... What? What am I... What? What is this? Job's finished! No, Billy! Oh no. What a misclick. A bit of a... interesting work break there for a lot of the SCVs. I don't think there were any units over there. It was just an unforced error. It happens. It's just rare to actually catch it. The game's been so passive that we have nothing to do but watch the incompetence of the SCVs and mules. Arguing over whether robots should actually be replacing good blue mineral jobs. Three hatcheries on the way for Dark. Hive is already done. Adrenal glands. And an ultralisk cavern. As he calls to the ultras. An ultralisk rush out of Dark. Which, very strong if he can survive with at least 3 bases. But he does have to survive this initial push. Going to be helped out a lot by the Lings and Banes closing in from every side. There's only one siege tank. The Banelings close in and slam into the Marines, melting through a critical mass of them and forcing ByuN to pick up and try to evacuate. Wow. Well, that will clear the field and give a serious opportunity for Ultras to hit that critical timing. Well, the critical timing is usually before ghosts exist, but at least before they have too many of them. And considering Dark is up to 78 drones, he's got 5 bases now that can be 6, 7. Okay, he has 7 bases. He's not mining off of all of them, but he could be. Adding a few more drones in. Adrenalines is nearly done. Chitinous plating. The Adrenalings, a real threat to these Marines, and there's a few Banelings in the mix. Will he be able to target it down? Not even bother. Oh, beautiful targeting. But still, the Lings, even without Adrenal, chew up a bunch of the Marines. Spore Crawler, as well as Queen, making the medevacs pay quite a toll to get into the main. Another Spore almost takes down the medevacs themselves. The Ultras are popping out. Chitinous plating is nearly done, as is +2 Carapace. But does he have the Ultras in time to save the rich Vespine base to the north? Widowmines will burrow. Draws out some hits. Not really the connections ByuN needed. 2-2 now done for ByuN. But the Ultras are fully operational. Medevac taken out of the sky. Banshee somehow badly bruised, but still alive back there. Ultra speed is on the way. There are 136 Zerglings. And that's not counting the few dozen Banelings as well. 144 Lings for Dark. And several Ultras mixed in. And all of the Zerglings are heading right down the center. The Ultra chewing through. ByuN completely out of position. Going to be an unrecoverable spot. 23 SCVs dead. Dark may give up a base, but ByuN may have to give up all of his. Oh my. Dark overrunning the field. The Ultras chewing through, and ByuN is chewed up and spit out before he has a chance to realize it. Well, that was a decisive, overwhelming victory for Dark. As the Ultras just run out. I don't think he needed the Ultras, but I'm glad he did have them. Wow. More one-sided than a Mobius strip there is ByuN. The complete reverse of Game 1. Everything ByuN attempted just got slapped down with ease. We didn't get to see that sneaky drone make the difference, but the 100-and-something Zerglings certainly did. So that brings us to the decider, Site Delta. Things will change, one way or another. ByuN has clearly leveraged that early mid-game to his advantage. In Dark, if he's allowed to sprint into the late game, well, you're going to be left behind. So I expect to see some form of early aggression out of ByuN, as Dark has been so greedy. Oh, is this a... And by that I mean, what if he just went command center first on the low ground? Which is also there. Though somewhat counterintuitively, command center first is oftentimes more defensible, because it's very unlikely even a pool first will have Zerglings in time to delay your base. So in this case, it works out. I mean, not that Dark has shown any tendency towards early aggression. Feel like it's whatever mood strikes him. Some days we're doing a Nidus sometimes multiple Nidus every game. Some days, straight up to 80 drones, Hive, and Ultras. Which day is it gonna be? Well, that's for you to find out. Ideally, before it's too late. Meals dropping. And ByuN? You know, I'd like to see, before we go into the new patch, just one more Hell Clone strategy. One more of the Mass Cyclone to try to chew through. Though, it was never really a popular strategy against Zerg or Proton. It never really materialized. I'm not sure if the new patch is going to make that much of a thing. We've seen some games with that mass Cyclone Hellion strategy, but I think Marines and tanks are still going to be the staples of Terran. No matter how many times we pretend like Terran should have 2 fully viable unit compositions while Protoss is struggling to find one. But I digress. Banshee, and actually goes for the cloak right off the bat. All these little details where the build looks almost exactly the same, but am I going for 2 Banshees? Are they going to have cloak? Is it just 1 and a Viking? That is the beauty of the 1-1-1, the Destiny Cloud Fist, as I imagine it was called in a fever dream sometime. Meanwhile, there's so many options as well for Zerg. You have queens, and also more queens is the early game. And no matter how much joint pain they have, they're still called into action. No matter how much they cost, they're still going to be necessary. So enjoy them while they're still discounted. Is this just a straight-up Banshee Hellbats all in? Well, I did say I expected some early aggression. And I can't really be surprised when that comes to fruition, but... So the counter to this is just queens. And having at least 1 Spore Crawler close enough to have detection. Or even hit the Banshees. The Hellbats are spotted. Brenda, call everyone! Everyone's already here. There's not that much space. There's barely any creep. And whose fault is that, Susan? Now get over here! Well, the queens are spreading. The Zerglings throwing themselves onto the fire. And, well... That, hit almost as hard as a wet sock. Or a dry sock, actually. It some friction, maybe. But very little actual tangible damage. The Banshees kill 4 drones, but Dark is... Well, did he lose a Banshee? No, there's a second Banshee at the natural. Now, this is where the damage is starting to add up a bit. The Hellbats are just waddling into the third, though. ByuN loses track of them for a second. Maybe had an opportunity to get a few more drones. Will still end up getting a couple. And the Banshees are still going. 10 drones on the Banshees, as the Queens were very reluctant to move out of position. But, no, get off my creep! Okay, you got him, Brenda. Don't be condescending. He, put the Overseer into Oversight mode. I think that's what it's called. And even if it isn't, that's what it should be. And, got that little bit of extra vision, because when they go into the Oversight mode, you get slightly more vision range. With detection is the key part. But Dark is inspired. Mutas are the choice. And he completely shut down. He might be anticipating a mech build. Though, either way, I think the Mutalisk, not a bad choice. When you've already cleared out the entirety of potential early aggression, you know the Marines and tanks are not going to be nearly as dangerous. But that doesn't mean they're not going to be... That doesn't mean they're going to be completely impotent. As now, the 4th base already canceled. Dark double expanding. This is a very old school kind of Mutilating Bane style where you just expand 2 places. It feels like this entire series has been Dark expanding to multiple locations simultaneously, but going to both sides and saying at least one of them will complete. And that's all you really need in order to play from this position. 1-1 upgrades already done for ByuN, but Dark just finished Baneling speed. He's got more Mutas on the way. But Lings and Banes winding up. There's not that many Marines with this army. Dark clearly wants to break the critical mass. The Mutas have yet to be revealed, mostly because they don't exist yet, but in either way. Big Zergling counterattack directly into the 3rd. ByuN will sprint out with reinforcements to deal with it. The queens are tanking the damage back at home. The mutas are revealed. Dark trying to hold the line. The mutas, they have to hit that very thin timing. He's gonna get one of the tanks. The supply not looking so great for Dark, but if he can take out the tanks and buy time for his 1-1. But mutas are so expensive. What am I watching? SCV's killing a Baneling cocoon. Seems, wrong in so many ways. And the mutas! The Marines still grinding forward. Finally, 1-1 completes. And the Zerglings are a bit more capable, but ByuN is already so far ahead. He's able to just crush his way through. The muta's too far of a reach. And ByuN kept the pressure on. I really thought the mutas would be in time. But their time was about 10 years ago, before Legacy of the Void released. And since then, well, that means Dark is going to be thrown into our bonus series. And you might recognize there's a new old player. A player has returned from their obligatory military service in Korea. And is excited, like, is actively looking to get back into it. It feels like it hasn't been too long, but I'm excited to re-announce the return of ByuN. Jimmy, do we have something? One of the wildcard Protoss players who looked like he was really getting up to that top tier level. Unfortunately, the timing just didn't work out for him. And he had his military service. But the loose cannon, he may need some updating, we will see. But one of the youngest players as well. I don't blame him for trying to get his service out of the way. Then getting back to it as soon as possible. But he's going to be facing Dark's gold base first. In this best of 3. I think he peaked out at about 3rd or 4th ranked Protoss in the world. Like, he was up there right behind Max Pax and Hero. And I think there's a space, especially with the new patch, for a very aggressive micro-oriented Protoss. Using things like the energy recharge, willing to take risks, as Parting, I believe, once said. In order to play Protoss well, you have to be at least a little crazy. I'm paraphrasing, of course, so I don't get demonetized. But the sentiment is there. So, down with the probe scale. He doesn't bother with the cannon rush. A lot of the times, the response to scouting the gold, cannon rush. Because from the other side of the rocks, if you start cannon rushing when the hatch is halfway done, there's literally no way they can stop it. The question is, how much do you want to invest in trying to counter something they can just ignore? Because a cannon rush at the bottom of your ramp is a threat. You can't get down your ramp without dealing with the cannons. If you cannon rush the gold base, though, they could just ignore it for potentially the rest of the game, so we will see. Either way, not going to be the cannons, but instead rushing out an adept. Dark should be able to take down the rocks that open up the lanes to the map. Make it a lot easier for the Zerglings to get around, and the Queens, terrestrially bound. Corona boosting both next sides down. Clearly interested in pumping up that economy. And now we see, what are you doing with the Twilight? Are you going to do a shrine to your opponent? Of all things? Or is this just Glaives? Glaives it is. A shrine to Dark would be a bold move in this particular scenario, but we're not ruling it out yet. It could very well be a follow-up. Adept attempts to get some damage done. Shade's back. But you know what they say. That which doesn't kill you leaves you permanently, emotionally, and physically damaged. And as long as you don't have any medevacs on your team, unable to ever be healed. Which I always thought was quite an unwieldy saying, but... well, you know, that expedites things. The Adept will no longer suffer, as it is now dead. Down with the backup wall battery. Dark with enough lings to deny the third base for now, but he does have the Overlord on the high ground, the Pervert Pillar, looking down. And I think he's anticipating exactly this, the Glaive to Depths. He's expecting it. He's building a Baneling nest, which you wouldn't build against Oracles, because Banelings cannot fly, unfortunately. But the Oracle, if there was to be one, should have already shown up. So that leaves you with either some sort of DT play, which we already see Spore Crawlers, or Glaive to Depths are the two most likely options. The Adepts warping in. The Warp Prism actually completely evaded Dark, who was looking directly out the front, not expecting the Prism to already have the Adepts in position. Will that matter, though? There's no Banelings. Glaives are done. Gonna start going for the drones. Dark only has 34 drones, so he can't really afford to lose too many. A recall out as he's surrounded by Zerglings. Only ends up losing one Adept. Certainly could have been much worse. But Dark now has 3 bases. He's building more drones. And the Queens will amble into the main. Anticipating the Warp Prism there as well. Correct about it. The Adepts shading away. The Queens. Adepts trying to shade in towards the goal, but Dark so far doing a good job boxing out. Still suffering in the worker count. Really struggling. With the gold base, he can keep up, but that is the big danger of this sort of composition. Or the main strength of the Adept Glaives and Twilight builds in general is it forces such a strong response on the ground. You need this many units as Zerg. But all these units are one bad shade away from lights out. As if he completes this into the Banelings, like one bad fight and you have no units left. You have no way to save your third. So he's towing a very precarious line, but so far, I feel like he's done a very good job of it. As he's got the... Feels like ByuN, literally, this is a build from pretty much the day he stopped playing. This is how Zerg's played. Well, especially ByuN. 2 years ago, the Glaive to Depths into Disruptor was, besides Stargate, probably the most common build. Disruptors did get nerfed, I believe, since then, into more supply, and generally, the build was figured out to an extent that it's not as effective, but it's definitely something worth mixing in, I think. And especially with the new patch coming up, actually, with the Disruptor. It might not do as much damage, but it's still going to be very threatening. Well, it won't one-shot roaches, so we'll see. That is a lot of Adepts. Oh, my. 21 Adepts. And the 2 Disruptors. Baneling speed is on the way. Roach speed is on the way. They're a long way from being delivered. The double Ruptor fires off a shot. Dark blindsided, though the Ruptors come up mostly empty. The Adept shade all the way through. Hectic. That's a chaotic fight. Dark scrambling in with the Banelings. Oh, he cancels the warp. Beautifully done. He gets his cooldowns back. That cost him nothing but time. So you gotta be really careful with that Prism. And uh-oh. He's gonna be losing the Prism. Fires off a shot. Hits some of the Banelings around the corner. Another shot. And gets some of the roaches. But ByuN, it's not enough. He did not do enough damage. There's gonna be, well, 2 Adepts sometimes end up doing more damage than entire armies. 13 drones, 14, 15. So the residual Adepts that barely survived the first engagement end up killing more drones than pretty much the rest of the army combined. But here's the problem. 46 to 60 workers. He lost the Prism at a key point in that fight. He needed another wave or 2 of reinforcements to keep it going. And maybe he could keep the momentum up. But Dark now has a 30 supply, going on 40 supply lead. And yes, that's in roaches, which a Disruptor could easily remove, but there's so many of them. Wow. Actually forces a cancel with the Adepts. Kind of a crazy play here. Disruptors. And the first shot, he tries to curve it back around, but the banelings just close in. Another Ruptor's point blank range comes up empty. GG. The loose cannon indeed. Well, not quite enough there, but still, he's got one more chance. Good to see him back, though. And like I've talked about many times, it does seem like he has a style. And so many players that, once they've established how they like to play, that's why it's so impressive when players do change their style. And why players like Dark are so much fun to watch, because so few players so regularly change kind of their default set. Like ByuN out here doing the same builds from 10 years ago, whereas Dark kind of freestyling. It is kind of the nature of Zerg, but definitely more distinct with Dark than most others. ByuN as well established in that early aggressive style, but still it was dangerous right up until that Prism died. I think as the Prism died and the Disruptors kind of panicked, that's when the chances of turning it around dipped significantly. Because if the Zerg is able to stabilize in that sort of scenario, well, you're going to have a bad time. Pylon in the wall. We'll see if Dark ends up exploiting it. I really hope we get at least a couple more months. There hasn't been any sort of announcement. I am a little concerned. There's been more of a break. You know, people are allowed to take breaks. He has a 6-month-old child at home, so that'll probably take, I don't know, an hour out of the day. Maybe more. But, we will see. But if anyone can make sense of the changes to Zerg, we still haven't seen a single Serral game either. I don't think we will probably until Home Story Cup at the end of November. On the new patch, or at all, really. Serral has also completed his military service. Interesting trend there, eh? But I assume just practicing to completely, well, practicing to get Zerg nerfed again, so that way Grandmaster ends up at 10% Zerg and all of them are Serral at this rate. Raynor has been playing more Protoss than Zerg in tournaments lately. Dark has a big question mark next to him. Shin is actually, of Zerg players, kind of coming out to be the potential new torchbearer, which is a stressful experience. He's like the hero of Zerg, where some games he looks like an absolute genius. In some games, I'm wondering if he's actually using his keyboard or if he's just trying to do everything with his mouse. Because clearly there are parts missing, but I think that's just part of, it's because the standards of Serral and Clem and, to an extent, MaxPax are so high. It's impossible to compare, it feels. Maybe shall? We will see. Oracle this time around. The Swiss Army knife for Protoss. Not going crazy with the Adepts. In fact, we're now getting the double gas. Looks like a Twilight Forge sort of situation. There's a Twilight. There's a Forge. Very likely Blink +1. Try to keep control of the Zerg economy without sacrificing, one, the ability to hit up, just in case they go mutas, as well as, like, charge lots and Archons are quite easily counterable by mass roaches early, whereas Blink Stalkers with good micro are a lot more slippery. They might not have the game-winning potential that a good charge lot Archon timing does. And that's why ByuN is not bothering with it. He's going straight for Charge Lot Archon. I don't know. I was talking about how ByuN would just take these risks. And then I'm like, but he's going for the safe Blink build. Nope. Nope. Charge loss. Here we go. And that extra gas was for the Archons. And in case Dark had an Overlord nearby and scouted it, it looks like a Blink timing. That's the hard part of reading this is, well, what is the response? Well, the response to both is Ravagers and Zerglings. And as many as you can build in a timely fashion. But the magnitude of the response is different. Against Blink Stalkers, you want to make sure you still have something of an economy behind. Against Charge Lot Archon, you want to crush it before it gets started, because then you might be able to counterattack into a win. The Oracle, get off my creep! Good job, Lucio. You did good out. Shut up, Brenda. Let me have this one. You just did. No, just stop talking. There's like a question mark at the end. It's rude. It sounds sarcastic. That's just my voice. Well, work on that. Sorry, I backed out for 2 Archons on the way. Charge finishing ByuN at I was gonna say exactly 62 probes, but he's building 3 more, so we will see. And now, 4th base in a bit of a questionable spot. Dark will let it complete. He's just right-clicked on it. He's going, he's just fighting the base, and it might be worth it. I think he'll get it. Will he be able to do much more though? The Zealots. Oh! The Queens come in, and at the last second, every single one of those Zealots' lives is in vain. I choose to believe Dark was holding till the last second instead of just slapping it down, but I think the Queen just barely got there. And either way, that is, he lost 6 Zealots. Those Archons are badly bruised, though the shield battery should be able to bring him back up. Very, very dicey juggling. Those Archons have less than full shields, which is not a great sign. Oh my god, 2 Archons left, but ByuN he's kind of just died. And like I mentioned, the response. Well, Dark has 78 drones, so this isn't like some big all-in from him. He can make all of this and more, multiple times over. Oh, well. There goes, and that's how you do it, says Dark. He takes down the Nexus. Great juggling from ByuN. I'm looking forward to having, like, we need another we need a Protoss who is willing to do these sorts of strats. Might be like, what about Hero? Hero's a different vibe. All right. It's different. Oh my. Beautiful juggling. Did you know the unit comes out the direction the dropship is facing? If you haven't watched my quick tips from 2013, you might not have known that. But a key part of microing with the Prism is making sure it's facing the right direction, because both the Immortal and the Archon take a split second to turn and face what they're going for. So if you're not microing the dropship correctly, you can't really make as much use out of it. But ByuN kind of putting on a clinic there on how to do some Warp Prism juggling. Well, that's a lot of Hydras. We got Lurker range on the way, but ByuN has put together a very strong army. The juggling was so good that he juggled his way back into the game. That doesn't mean that he's ahead, but he certainly has a fighting chance here with this many Immortals and Archons. That is a lot of Zerglings and Hydras, though, let alone any Lurkers. 5th base is denied by the Zealots. And now, the Immortals and Archons chewing their way through the center. Seismic Spines is completed. Oh, that's a beautiful 360-degree surround. Knocks out the Prism. But is there enough to actually hold on to this? The Archons chasing down one part of the army. I think there's just too much here. Yeah, the queen's coming down to defend. Ever since the transfuse is on the hatchery, it's been a desperate scenario. No War Prism to save. That's way too many Hydras. The Zealots, he's gonna stutter step back. +2's done. Okay. You know what? Some credit to Jean for not just leaving the game, but he's dead, Jim.
He's dead, Jim.
Well, Dark throws back the Immortal, well, the Archons, and the charge launch saves the 4th base. Follows up with a deadly timing shot, almost dances his way out of it. But that is a GG of lurkers right there. He's just gonna cut off the base, isolate it and kill it with the Hydras and Lings. The Queens are ready for the charge log counter with some Hydras behind. And without Storm, there's no dealing with this lurker bone. GG. Dark takes it 2-0. But still a fun series. I'm really looking forward to having John back. Always good to see new old faces for some more good games, and hopefully you are as well. But once again, what was your favorite map of this map pool? And which one should we keep and make a and scream into the void if it isn't part of the next one? And which was, you know what, even better, which is their least favorite map? All right, Crimson Court with its rocks everywhere. Ghost River, because it reminds you ghosts exist. I don't know. But either way, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope I made your day just a little bit better. And if you got the means and motivation, be awesome. Check out Patreon or YouTube membership, but I hear liking and subscribing is still free, at least for now. And I know we're not on the new patch with this one, but if you'd like to see me play some admittedly less proficient games on the new patch, you can check out the second channel, Winter Gaming TV, where we stream the games, both on Twitch and on the YouTubes. I think you have to go to the live tab. It's not hard to find. But thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Good luck. Have fun. Congratulations. At least half the time to Dark. And thank you for watching. Stay chill.